The first time I met my girlfriend's childhood best friend, he proudly introduced himself as the ultimate fake baller investigator. Throughout the entire dinner, he couldn't stop lecturing me. Men really shouldn't overdress to look like someone they aren't. If Delilah hadn't explicitly told me you were her boyfriend, I would have definitely grouped you with all those fake rich guys I've exposed online. My girlfriend Delilah eagerly nodded along. You really do dress a bit too flashy, Noah. You should listen to Silas and tone it down. I couldn't even be bothered to argue with them. I made an excuse to go to the restroom. But right outside the door, I overheard Silas delivering his expert appraisal of me. Delilah, just look at how that man walks and talks. He's obviously been through one of those gold digger training camps. He only approached you for your money about it. A Patek Philippe watch, a limited edition Louis Vuitton briefcase, and a multi-million-dollar sports car. How could a regular resident doctor ever afford that? My blood boiled and I finally reached the end of my patience. I turned around, pulled out my phone and called my mother, the richest billionaire in New York. Mom, wire me $10 million. I'm going to buy out a certain fake baller agency and teach this guy that wealthy women can actually have sons. If you don't believe me, I'll test him for you in a minute. That way you can see this gold digger for who he really is. As I hung up the phone, Silas's confident voice drifted out from the private dining room. Delilah was looking at him, nodding with absolute trust. I really wanted to see how Silas planned to test a real heir like me. When I pushed the door open, Silas was holding my Louis Vuitton briefcase, inspecting the lock and the leather from every angle, with a condescending smirk. I'm telling you, young guys, like you, really shouldn't get caught up in comparing yourselves to others. The first step to becoming a fake baller is trying too hard to package yourself. This bag of yours is a rental, right? I almost laughed out loud. I bought this limited edition briefcase, straight from the boutique in Paris. Building up the purchase history to get it cost me over $30,000. When Silas saw I wasn't speaking, he assumed he had hit a nerve. She put on an I knew it expression and shifted his gaze to my Patek Philippe watch. Can you let me authenticate that watch of yours? Don't get the wrong idea. I'm just worried you got scammed into spending real money on a fake. After all, the bag is already a knockoff. Delilah was already looking at me with deep suspicion. She gave me an order. Silas is just looking out for you. Hurry up and let him see it. This watch was a promotion gift my oldest sister gave me last month. Her entire watch cabinet is filled with pieces worth tens of millions of dollars. If Silas actually appraised this as a fake, it would only prove that he was the real fraud here. Took off the watch, handed it to him and smiled. Sure, this watch is a highly limited edition, so make sure you don't mess up your appraisal. Silas eagerly snatched the watch. As he examined it carefully, I clearly caught the flash of raw jealousy in his eyes. It was obvious he had already realized the watch was authentic, but he still opened his mouth to lie. Oh wow, Delilah. Your boyfriend is still trying to pass this off as a limited edition to get away with it, but it's actually just a cheap replica. I just have to ask. You're a young guy with an average family and an average job. Why are you buying these fakes? Just to stroke your ego. Don't tell me. You thought you could use these knockoffs to trap a rich girl and drain her bank account. The belittling tone in his words couldn't have been more obvious. In an instant, the way the other people at the table looked at me changed from admiration to disgust. Delilah glared at me with sheer contempt, her voice dripping with disgust. How can you be so vain? And to think I actually believed you were different from other men? It turns out you all just want my money. Looking at her disgusted expression, my heart turned ice cold. I used to think Delilah was just easily influenced, but that she at least had basic judgment. After all, we had been together for almost a year. Shouldn't she know what kind of person I am by now? The reality of the situation hit me like a bucket of ice water. I frowned, matching her dissatisfaction. Delilah, who is actually your boyfriend here? You just blindly believe a single word he says. Since that's how it is, I don't see any point in finishing this dinner. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and prepared to leave. Silas gave a fake plastic smile and chimed in again. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Did the rental time on that sports car downstairs run out? Are you using this as an excuse to go return it? I was completely out of patience. I turned and demanded an answer. What makes you think my car is a rental? Silas patted Delilah's back to calm her down, while giving me a hypocritical smile. Your little parlor tricks are obvious to an expert fraud investigator. Like me. Delilah already told me that you two met by accidentally bumping into each other's cars. Isn't that the classic textbook move for fake socialites and ballers? After finishing his string of malicious guesses, he laughed and changed the subject. Oh, Delilah, look at me. My occupational habits are acting up again. You won't doubt your own boyfriend just because of what I said, right? Delilah grabbed his hand, looking at him with a face full of gratitude. Silas, I should be thanking you for making me see the true colors of this gold digger. Noah, What's with that look? He was kind enough to warn me. I actually thought you came for money, but now I see you're just a vain gold-digging fraud. You don't deserve me at all. I let out a scoffing laugh before she could even say the word break up. I beat her to it. Fine. Then let's break up. My mother had been waiting for me downstairs. Seeing me come down alone, she quickly asked what had happened. I forced a smile. It's nothing, Mom. You don't need to go up. Let's just go home. I had originally planned to tell Delilah my true identity. As a billionaire's son today, I wanted her to meet my mother, so her startup could have some solid backing in the future. It was her own fault for throwing this opportunity away. To my surprise, the very next day, Delilah and Silas were waiting for me right outside my hospital. Soon as she saw me, she slammed a stack of photos hard against my forehead. Noah, you are absolutely filthy. No wonder you were in such a rush to break up with me yesterday. Once Silas exposed you and you realized you couldn't drain my wallet, you immediately ran off to your next target. Silas crossed his arms, gloating as he looked me up and down. A sugar mommy who's almost 50 years old. You really have no standards. You'll really do anything for a paycheck, won't you? The sharp edge of one of the photos scratched my forehead, sending a sting of pain across my skin. I glanced down at the photos scattered on the ground. They were pictures of my mother picking me up last night. Silas was the only one who had followed me out of the restaurant yesterday, so he definitely took them. I dropped any pretense of politeness, staring coldly at Silas. Before you play fraud investigator, shouldn't you actually do a background check on the person's network? Delilah, the woman in this photo, is my mother. I thought Delilah would at least feel a shred of guilt upon hearing the truth. Instead, she just let out a cold sneer. She had been so thoroughly brainwashed that she didn't believe a word I said. Silas already looked her up. That woman is the wealthiest billionaire in New York. Pretending you're related to big shots is exactly the kind of trick you fake ballers use. Silas clung to her arm, sighing, and telling her how poor she was for almost getting tricked by me, then gave my phone a calculating look. Delilah, these fake ballers usually string along multiple sugar mommies at once. Check his phone. I bet he has several wealthy sponsors saved in his contacts. Lila grabbed my wrist and violently snatched my phone away. She quickly scrolled through my contacts, furiously showing me the numbers saved under oldest sister and second sister. I was just about to explain that they were my actual siblings, but she glared at me, her eyes filled with absolute hatred and disgust. It really is true. Silas was entirely right about you. You act all innocent in front of me, but in reality, you're just a gigolo who uses a fake rich guy persona to hook women. Noah, I want every single cent I spent on you over the past year back right now. All of her supposed moral outrage vanished completely the moment she demanded money. I let out a sarcastic laugh. So it was all about the money. We actually calculated everything. The amount I had spent on Delilah over our 1-year relationship far exceeded what she had spent on me. I snatched my phone back and met her gaze with dead eyes. You want money? You're not getting a single cent. If you want to audit this relationship and see who actually leached off who, I'd be more than happy to do the math with you. Listening to her furious roars behind me, I walked away without even turning my head. Right after I finished my surgery, the chief of medicine called me into his office and showed me a viral, anonymous post. Dr. Noah Vance, from the city's top hospital, is a two-faced fake baller. He plays the role of a good doctor in front of patients, but he actually juggles 3 or 4 sugar mommies and has been passed around by everyone. Patients at the hospital better watch out. He might just be getting close to you because he wants your money. Post had already climbed to the top of the trending topics. The comment section was filled with curses and verbal abuse. Someone had even photoshopped a black and white memorial photo of me and posted it. In the replies, Chief looked grave. No, I need you to take a leave of absence and step down temporarily. My nails dug deeply into my palms as I desperately tried to defend myself. Chief, everything in that post is fabricated. Besides, this is a critical period for my promotion evaluation. The chief sighed. Do you think? I don't know, it's fake, but the hospital switchboard has been blowing up all morning. The public is demanding an answer. As for your promotion evaluation, you'll have to wait another 5 years. Tears well up in my eyes, threatening to spill over. I had already waited 5 years for this evaluation. How many more 5-year periods did I have left to wait? It wasn't hard to guess who posted this. It had Silas's dirty tactics written all over it. Wanted to ruin my life so I could never bounce back. Swallowing my heartbreak, I was forced to accept the suspension and walked out of the office. The family member of a patient stormed right up to me, full of rage, slapped me hard across the face and screamed, "A doctor with such a filthy personal life doesn't deserve to be in this hospital. Someone just told me, you only act so caring toward my dad because you're after his pension. And to think I actually believed you cared about the elderly." I can't believe how twisted you are. The patient families who used to look at me with gratitude were now staring at me with the most hateful, disgusted expressions from the crowd. The masterminds, Delilah and Silas, walked over hand in hand. Both of them wore identical mocking smiles. Delilah spoke coldly. Silas tried to warn you early on. We told you it was for your own good, but you refused to listen. Now you're choking on your own karma. You deserve it. Silas looked at me with triumphant eyes, using a loud self-righteous tone so everyone could hear. Evil people will always face judgment. Don't worry, everyone. I will help you get justice. I'll help you kick this gold digger out of the hospital. He'll never work in medicine again. Thunderous round of applause erupted from the crowd. Delilah tilted her head up arrogantly and looked down at me. Silas already contacted the other sugar mammies in your phone. He told them the entire truth. They all said they are coming down here personally to confront you. We formed a victims alliance and hired a lawyer. You can just wait for the lawsuit. I almost thought I misheard him. They contacted my mother and my 2 older sisters, the people who spoiled me like a prince, to sue me. Silas saw my shocked expression and assumed I was terrified. He eagerly poured more fuel on the fire. Let me tell you, I've handled countless cases of fake ballers. Just like you, wealthy people know exactly how to ruin others. They'll probably destroy your reputation and throw you out on the streets. Your life is officially over. They are on their way right now. Just wait. I curled my lips into a deeply meaningful smile. Great. I'll wait for them. Just make sure you 2 don't run away. Less than 5 minutes later, a middle-aged woman walked into the hospital lobby, flanked by 2 young women. Over a dozen bodyguards cleared the path for them. They looked incredibly intimidating. Silas rushed forward with a sickeningly sweet smile to greet the older woman in the front. You must be Mrs. Vance, right? That fake baller is right over there. We already taught him a little lesson for you. The rest is up to you. After all, you gentlemen and ladies are the biggest victims here. The woman stopped in her tracks, raised her hand and slapped Silas across the face with brutal force. Her voice was terrifyingly dark. Are you the one falsely accusing my son of being a gigolo? The sharp crack of my mother's palm against Silas's cheek echoed through the cavernous hospital lobby. It was so loud, so sudden, that the murmuring crowd instantly went dead silent. Silas stumbled backward, clutching his face, his smug smile completely wiped away. He stared at my mother, eyes wide with shock and fury. Are you crazy? Silas yelled, his voice cracking. I just helped you catch the guy who's been draining your bank accounts. I'm doing you a favor, you crazy old. Before he could finish his sentence, the 2 massive bodyguards flanking my mother surged forward. One grabbed Silas by the collar of his designer suit, while the other kicked the back of his knees, forcing him to kneel violently on the hard tile floor. Delilah shrieked, rushing forward to grab Silas's arm. What are you doing? Security. Somebody call security. You can't just attack people because you're rich. Noah, tell your pathetic sugar mommy to back off. My mother, Evelyn Vance, didn't even look at Delilah. She slowly pulled a silk handkerchief from her Hermes bag, wiped the hand she had used to slap Silas, and dropped the cloth directly onto his face. Sugar mommy, my mother repeated, her voice a deadly, quiet drawl that commanded the entire room. She turned her icy gaze to Delilah. I am Evelyn Vance, and the man you have been dragging through the mud all morning is my youngest son, Noah Vance, heir to the Vance conglomerate. The lobby was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Delilah's face contorted into a messy mix of confusion, denial, and panic. She looked at me, then back at my mother. No, that's impossible. Silas did a background check. Noah is just a resident doctor. He comes from an average family. You're just covering for him to save your own reputation. Save my reputation? My mother scoffed. She gestured to the 2 stunning young women standing beside her. Allow me to introduce the rest of his sugar mummies. My eldest daughter, Victoria Vance, CEO of Vance Global Financial, and my second daughter, Elena Vance, Principal Director of Vance Real Estate. Victoria, my oldest sister, stepped forward. She was wearing a tailored Tom Ford suit and radiating absolute authority. She looked at Silas, who was still kneeling on the floor, trembling. You're the absolute clown who appraised the Patek Philippe I bought for my brother in Geneva. Victoria asked, her tone dripping with aristocratic disgust. I spent $4 million at auction for that piece. And you called it a cheap replica. Tell me, Mr. Investigator, where exactly did you get your certification? Elena, my second sister, folded her arms. And I suppose the limited edition Aston Martin I had shipped from London for his birthday is a rental, too? I'd love to see the rental agency that carries custom-stitched interiors with the Vance family crest on the headrests. The crowd of patients and hospital staff were staring in open-mouthed horror. The man whose father had slapped me earlier was completely pale, backing away, slowly into the crowd, realizing the catastrophic mistake he had just made. Delilah let go of Silas's arm. Her hands were shaking. "Noah," she whispered, her voice trembling. Is this true?" I stepped forward, straightening my white coat. The anger that had been boiling inside me had completely cooled, replaced by a ruthless clarity. "I tried to tell you last night, Delilah," I said, my voice empty of any affection I once held for her. "I was going to introduce you to my mother so she could fund your startup. But you chose to believe a fraud." "He's lying," Silas suddenly screamed, struggling against the bodyguards. Sweat was pouring down his forehead. "Delilah, don't listen to them. These are actors. He hired actors to save face. There's no way a billionaire's son would work grueling 80-hour shifts in a public hospital." Victoria let out a cold, sharp laugh. She reached into her designer tote and pulled out an iPad, tossing it onto the floor right in front of Silas's knees. "Actors?" Victoria sneered. "Unlike you, little man, we actually possess the resources to do a background check. It took my security team exactly 6 minutes to dismantle your entire life." I looked down at the iPad screen. It displayed a detailed dossier. "Let's look at the great fake baller investigator Silas Thorne," Victoria announced, raising her voice so the entire lobby could hear. "No assets, no properties, no cars. You live in a basement apartment in Queens leased under your aunt's name. Your investigation agency is an unregistered LLC with zero reported revenue for the past 3 years." Silas's face turned the color of chalk. That's a lie." "Oh, I'm not finished," Victoria interrupted, her eyes flashing. "Let's talk about your outfit. That Gucci suit? A knockoff from Canal Street. The Rolex Daytona on your wrist? It's ticking loudly enough that I can hear the cheap quartz battery from here. Real Rolexes sweep, they don't tick, you absolute peasant." The crowd gasped, murmuring excitedly. People started pulling out their phones to record Silas. The hunter had become the hunted. "You prey on wealthy women by acting as a protector against gold diggers." Victoria continued ruthlessly. "You feed on their paranoia, isolate them from genuine partners, and then charge them exorbitant consulting fees while skimming off the top of their lifestyle. You are exactly what you claim to expose." Delilah looked down at Silas. Her eyes darted to his suit, his watch, and then back to the iPad on the floor. "Silas," she stammered, her voice shrill. "Is this true? You told me you came from a trust fund. You told me you took out a mortgage to help me." "He took out a payday loan," Elena chimed in, smiling sweetly, "for $5,000 at a 400% interest rate. And he's currently 3 months behind on payments." Silas couldn't say a word. He was physically shaking, looking like a cornered rat. The arrogant, condescending smirk he wore last night at the restaurant was entirely gone, replaced by raw, naked terror. Delilah staggered backward, her hands covering her mouth. The reality was finally crashing down on her. The fake baller was Silas all along. And the man she had just thrown away, humiliated, and tried to ruin, was actually a billionaire heir. She turned to me, tears instantly streaming down her face. The hatred from just 20 minutes ago vanished, replaced by desperate, pleading affection. Noah baby, I'm so sorry," she sobbed, taking a step toward me. I reached out to grab my hand, but I took a deliberate step back, letting her grasp empty air. "Don't touch me," I said coldly. "Please, Noah. I was brainwashed," Delilah cried, tears ruining her makeup. "Silas manipulated me. You know how I am, I'm too trusting. I love you, Noah. I really do. We can get past this. I'll cut him out of my life right now. Let's just go home." I looked at her, truly seeing her for the first time. I saw the greed calculating behind her tearful eyes. She wasn't mourning our relationship, she was mourning the billion-dollar fortune she had just flushed down the drain. "Go home?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "You mean the apartment that I pay the rent for? Or do you mean the startup office that I secretly funded?" Delilah froze. What? I said we could do the math, Delilah, and my family's lawyers already did. I snapped my fingers. A man in a sharp gray suit stepped out from behind my mother. It was Mr. Sterling, the head of Vance Global's legal department. He handed me a thick manila folder. "Let's audit this relationship," I said, opening the folder. "Over the past year, you spent approximately $4,500 on me. Mostly cheap dinners and a few shirts. Now let's look at my side. Your rent? $4,000 a month, paid through a shell company I set up, so you wouldn't feel bad about accepting my money. Your startup seed money? $150,000. wired by an anonymous angel investor. That was me. Delilah's legs gave out. She collapsed onto her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. No, Noah, please. You demanded every cent back, I said, my voice devoid of pity. I agree. We should settle our debts. You owe me exactly $218,500. Mr. Sterling here will serve you the papers. I expect the funds in my account by the end of the month, or we will seize your company. Dr. Vance. Noah. Wait, please. A panicked voice broke through the tension. Dr. Harris, the chief of medicine, was practically sprinting across the lobby, his lab coat flapping behind him, completely out of breath. He must have been alerted by security that the Vance family had descended upon his hospital. He skidded to a halt in front of us, looking terrified. He wiped the sweat from his balding head and put on a sickeningly obsequious smile. Mrs. Vance. Ms. Victoria. It is an absolute honor to have you in our hospital. The chief stammered, bowing slightly. He turned to me. Noah, my boy. There has been a terrible misunderstanding. The suspension? Just a formality. Just protocol. You are our brightest resident, and your promotion is absolutely secured. You can come back to work right now. I looked at the chief. Just an hour ago, he had coldly told me I would have to wait 5 years for my promotion to appease an angry online mob. My mother stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. Dr. Harris, is it? Yes, ma'am. My family has donated over $50 million to this hospital's research wing over the past decade, my mother said softly. The chief's eyes widened in realization. The Vance wing of the hospital suddenly made terrifying sense to him. And yet, the moment an anonymous, baseless rumor is posted online by a fraud, you throw my son to the wolves without an investigation. You let patients physically assault him in your lobby. The chief turned pale. Ma'am, the public pressure. The public pressure is irrelevant when you lack a spine, Victoria cut in. Vance Global is pulling all funding from this institution effective immediately. No, please. The chief begged, looking at me. Noah, you're a doctor. You care about the patients. If the funding is pulled, the oncology ward will suffer. You can't let them do this over a personal dispute. I looked at him calmly. You're right, chief. The patients shouldn't suffer because of your incompetence. The chief breathed a sigh of relief. Mom. I turned to my mother. Don't pull the funding. Whatever you say, Noah, she smiled warmly, instantly shifting from a ruthless billionaire to a doting mother. Instead, I continued, looking dead into the chief's eyes. Buy the hospital. Buy out the entire board. And once the ink is dry, fire Dr. Harris and revoke his pension. A man who caves to internet trolls instead of protecting his medical staff has no business running a hospital. The chief's knees buckled. He grabbed his chest, looking like he was about to have a heart attack right there in the lobby. My mother smiled a terrifying, predatory smile. Consider it done, sweetheart. I'll have the acquisition papers drawn up by noon. I turned my attention to the crowd. The patient's family member who had slapped me earlier was trying to sneak toward the exit. Stop right there, I commanded. The man froze. He turned around, terrified, expecting my bodyguards to beat him to a pulp. I won't press assault charges against you, I told the man, who looked visibly shocked. Your father has stage 3 carcinoma, and he's terrified. You acted out of misguided anger because this parasite, I pointed at Silas, lied to you. But if you ever lay a hand on a healthcare worker again, I will personally make sure you are ruined. Do you understand? The man swallowed hard, tears welling in his eyes. I understand. I am so sorry, Dr. Vance. I'm sorry. Go sit with your father, I said quietly. Silas and Delilah were still on the floor, surrounded by the ruins of their own arrogance. Silas finally found his voice, though it was weak and raspy. You can't do this to me. I'll go to the press. I'll tell them the wealthy elite are bullying an innocent man. Go ahead, Victoria laughed. But it will be hard to give interviews from Rikers Island. Mr. Sterling. The lawyer stepped forward again. Silas Thorne, we have compiled evidence of your extortion, fraud, and wire fraud involving at least 6 different women over the past 2 years. The district attorney is a personal friend of the Vance family. The police are waiting outside the hospital doors right now. Silas let out a pathetic whimper. He looked toward the automatic sliding doors and saw the flashing red and blue lights of 3 NYPD cruisers pulling into the loading zone. He tried to scramble up and run, but my mother's bodyguards slammed him effortlessly back onto the floor, dragging him away by his collar, like a garbage bag. Delilah watched him get dragged away, completely shattered. She slowly looked up at me, her face pale, all the vanity and entitlement stripped away. Noah, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I lost everything, didn't I? I looked down at the woman I had spent a year loving, the woman I had planned to build a life with. There was no anger left in my heart, only indifference. No, Delilah, I replied softly. You didn't lose anything. You just showed me exactly who you are, and I took back what was mine. I turned my back on her and walked toward my family. My mother linked her arm affectionately through mine, and my sisters flanked my sides. We walked out of the hospital lobby together, ignoring Delilah's broken sobs echoing behind us. 3 months later, the morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my new office. The gold plaque on the door read, Dr. Noah Vance, head of surgical medicine. After my mother bought the hospital, the board was completely restructured. Corrupt administrators were ousted, and sweeping reforms were put in place to protect the medical staff from harassment. I didn't want the promotion just because my family owned the building, but the new board insisted my medical track record had already earned it years ago. I took a sip of my coffee and opened the morning paper on my desk. In the local metro section, a small headline caught my eye, Fake Investigator, sentenced to 7 years for serial fraud. The article detailed how Silas Thorne had broken down in tears during his sentencing, begging for leniency, but the judge had thrown the book at him. He was currently serving his time in a maximum security state facility, his investigator days permanently over. As for Delilah, I didn't need the newspaper to know her fate. My legal team had executed the lawsuit flawlessly, unable to pay back the $218,500 she owed me. Her startup was seized and liquidated. Without my shadow funding and the lifestyle I secretly provided, she was forced to move out of her luxury apartment and file for bankruptcy. Last I heard from a mutual acquaintance, she was working double shifts as a waitress in New Jersey, trying to pay off the massive legal fees she had incurred. There was a soft knock on my door. It was Nurse Clara, holding a patient chart. Dr. Vance, she smiled warmly. Your 9 a.m. bypass surgery is prepped and ready in or 3. I stood up, slipping on my clean white coat. I looked down at my wrist. The Patek Philippe my sister gave me caught the morning light, sweeping perfectly, silently, without a single tick. Thank you, Clara, I said, walking past my desk. Let's go save a life.